I guess I better go ahead and start the show. Hold on. Let me set up the microphone here. I know that's not going to be easy, but I might as well start the show to begin with because, of course, I did manage to watch Bastard Dark Metal Fantasy, which I did watch the original OVA series back in 1998. And for those who don't know, this series has been around for decades, the manga especially. For those who don't know, this is like the remake of the series. Now, I understand that some people were very disappointed with that series because of the fact that the character that they brought out for Dark Schneider happens to be a bitch in this series, but I can't help but laugh at him because it's kind of corny. And I understood that. Of course, it is kind of corny because that's what it was. Like, that's what it was meant to be. Because if you actually notice the character, like, the character was washing panties. Like, Bastard manga, like, anyone who could show you the Bastard manga would tell you what it looks like. Like, I'm pretty sure, let me see the manga. Like, the way this works is that they're trying to adapt it to a newer audience because Bastard happens to be like the swords and type of fantasy type of manga that you would expect. Now, it's a strange series because it's an obscurely oddball series, and for that, I'm going to go ahead and talk about this series because a lot of people have been, upset about the ending of the series, but I do know for a fact that there's going to be a part 2 for this because I know that some people were severely disappointed with the ending, and I know the ending is because if anyone who watched the 1998 OVA series of Bastard, they would know because of course, the Netflix version of it, you have to understand the style a long time ago was a very different. Bastard happens to be a very strange manga for itself, for its time. And a lot of people don't realize like the fantasy and everything in it was different. And of course, you have to understand, like, this is the manga. Like, I'm going to show you guys the example of the manga here. And someone actually put out, like, the pages of chapter 4. Now, this is the style that it was back in the early days. And you have to understand that the person that created the series wanted to make it a little bit cute and a little bit cutesy in a way. And you have to understand that this series was really old, like really old for a manga series. And it's kind of the example of it. The Bastard manga is kind of a strange manga in itself, and it's kind of funny too. Like, you'd be surprised, Bastard manga is kind of a, like, because I do recall the deluxe, because I actually watched this anime before, and I actually watched it through bootleg. And sadly, one of the episodes kind of skipped onto the episode. And of course, I do know what happened to Dark Schneider in the end. And of course, if anyone who watched the original OVA series would know the ending, and that ending kind of will tell you what happened. Now, Bastard the anime has been around for a long time, since 1998. And I did watch it around, I think around 2004 when I started. And when I found out that eBay was selling animes, around that time, you'd be surprised. Like, the manga covers for Bastard is kind of strange. Like, it's a... Like, the Dark Metal Fantasy anime is very much adapted to where they were trying to retell the story in the remake of it. And a lot of people don't realize that this anime's been around for a long time. And they assume that, the ending is going to be, boo-hoo, the ending sucks. And I heard that from a lot of criticisms that were being made about it. Because I know a lot of people were surprised by by it. The funny thing was, they were making references. Like I was like posting on Twitter, like one of the spells. Like I didn't realize that they were making references to heavy metal bands. Like they were like the spells like were called based on like one of them was like Guns N' Roses, which was Guns N' Roses, and the other one was Damned. The other one was what was that other one? I do recall Megadeth was another one that they made a reference to. Like a lot of the stuff that they were making fun of were just a lot of the, and you'd be surprised, like it's hilarious. Like Bastard's been around for a long time, and of course they're also making a Bastard 2 manga, which I was kind of surprised by. Like this is like a light novel series. It's been around for a long time, and it's like you'd be surprised. Like this manga series has been around for a long time. Like I can show you that this is one of the covers, for example. And it was released under a company that did this. Was the like you'd be surprised. Like this was a jump comic, and this is the manga. Like you'd be surprised. This is like I think this is like it's a really good series. Like it's kind of funny. But I know that some people were kind of like upset about this. Like this is kind of the example of it. Like there's some really good fan art of this, and it's really beautiful. Like it's really great. And you have to understand, like this has been around for a long time, considering the manga was published a long time ago. You have to understand, like you can look up the information on this thing. Like this manga was published in, let's see, Volume 1 of Bastard was published in, let's see if I can look it up here, because I know that's according to, in 1998. This thing was around the 80s. You have to understand, even the hairstyle was in the 80s. And you could tell that this guy was inspired by a lot of stuff. And it was published in 1998. The first volume was published in 1998. And a lot of people don't realize, like, this series had a lot of volumes to telling a story. And Dark Snyder, you know, from what I understand, was the main protagonist of this whole series. He has a big ego, and this is kind of who he was. And his strong lust for women, of course, he does have a womanizing personality. He likes women, borderline psychotic attitude, kind of what you would expect from a character. But he was trapped in a young boy's body, and yes, he was an evil guy, but he basically, you know, did a lot of stuff. Like, if you notice that the name Metallica is a reference to Metallica. For those who don't know, that's like a lot of the stuff that you may notice in because when they titled the whole thing Dark Metal Fantasy, like Heavy Metal Fantasy, they're referencing to the 80s bands that had been around since around the 80s, the heavy metal bands that started out in the 80s, and they were very popular acts. And you may notice that they were doing like the Four Seals of Anthrax was like Anthrax. That was like they were making like Judas, White Snake, Iron Maiden. Like they were making references to. They even have a sorcerer named Osborne. Like, no joke. And then, of course, I do recall Sheila happens to be an artist, like Sheila. For those that don't know, Sheila was actually a really good artist back in the 80s. Like, they were making references to Sheila E. For those who don't know, Sheila E. happens to be a American percussionist, and she was really good at it. Like, she's a really good artist back in those days. But I do feel bad for her and her health. Luckily, she's doing okay. I do like Sheila E. because she was around when she helped out another music act that like she's been like they made references to those things like. Okay, it's reconnected. Good. I'm sorry about this. My internet's not really doing so well lately. I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys this whole thing because it makes a lot of like if you notice, this whole freaking anime makes a lot of references to a lot of makes like slight references to heavy metal bands back in the days. And that's why that's why they titled it to the remake Bastard Heavy Metal Fantasy. And I actually do like I do get why they were doing this because they noticed that there was a lot of references to 80s 80s musical acts, and I was kind of surprised that they had Sheila E. Like I'm surprised. Like it was making references to Anthrax. The band, the heavy metal band, like they were around since God. Like the band itself was around since a long time. Like let's see, they started out in 1981. No joke. They started out like they're making reference, like this whole anime makes references to heavy metal. Like no joke. This whole thing, like Megadeth, they made references to that. This whole anime made references to that. And I'm kind of surprised by this because I would have to say this anime is pretty good. I'm not going to lie, it's actually a pretty good series. And a lot of people had talked about this, and it is kind of a strange series for what it's worth. Considering that you're using an obscure IP that has been known for a while, and I watched this series myself to know that wasn't like the ending, and it's not the worst ending ever. But I understand some people were upset with the ending, and I'm not going to spoil it because I want people to watch this anime because I do like the anime Bastard. It is actually a really good anime. But a lot of people have talked about this anime before, and it's kind of a big surprise too. Oh boy. Oh boy. Someone decided to upload some content. And they were... I gotta watch that anime. I gotta buy the Blu-ray DVD anime of the movie. Let's see here. Let's see if I can play it. Hold on. There we go. Luckily I can hear my headphones right now. But considering what's going on, I can't help but laugh at this because there's been a lot of stuff that's been going on lately. And I want to go ahead and address this because it is kind of funny how people were talking about this anime. And I know that some people probably don't like it for a lot of reasons because I find it hilarious. So I guess I better go ahead and talk about the news and everything. So I'm going to begin with some anime news because I understand that some people were talking about the release of DNF and also the fact that they're also people were disappointed with the Battle Collection because of the censorship ending of of certain anime. So I'm kind of disappointed about this because a lot of people were talking about some censorship with Morgan, the ending of Morgan's game in Darkstalkers. And a lot of people like Darkstalkers series. Sadly, Darkstalkers hasn't been really in Capcom's radar. And Darkstalkers happens to be one of the very few popular animes out there. And I get that some people don't like it, but it's actually an okay gaming series for a fighting game series, for what it's worth. So I'm gonna try my best to talk about this because I know that some people were talking about a lot of things. So I'm going to go ahead and get into this because I know that most people are like, I'm going to show you guys something, and I'm going to show you the image that I uploaded on Twitter. And this is the image from the anime Bastard Heavy, which I accidentally said Dark Metal Fantasy. It's actually Heavy Metal Fantasy because it's a very dark series, but it's also a comical series too. But it's like they were making references to Guns N' Roses. Guns N' Roses. Yes, they made references to a lot of like spells, and I'm surprised that the guys that didn't bother to sue them or talk about Metallica or Metallica or AKA Metallica, the city, the kingdom of Metallica. Like, it's no surprise right there. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk about this because it is hilarious. And the fact that people are talking about this anime and showing interest to this anime, I'm just going to go ahead and see what people are saying about Bastard. But it does this a lot. Like, I always get disconnected. Ah, crap. Oh, luckily I did. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys. Yes, they literally are doing this. Like, people are just literally getting, like, showing off the anime itself. And I can honestly detest, yes, this does happen. This is hilarious. An honorable warrior is so gullible. Like, it's a really good series. Like, I can't help but laugh at it. It's really good for what it's worth. And it has that fantasy way. Hey, how's it going?
To be an honor, you must have honor, and a penis. Woo! Hey,
I know that series is so freaking hilarious. Like, I watched Heavy Metal, Dark Metal Fantasy. It's hilarious.
Oh, let me guess. You're talking about Bastard.
Yeah.
I heard of this show, but I never actually watched it.
I watched the OVA series back in the 90s. When I actually bought the bootleg around 2004 or 5 or 3 when eBay was around.
Man.
And it does have fan service, but it does have Anichi. It does have a lot of stuff in it. Like, it's very much funny as hell. But at the same time, I know that a lot of people were disappointed in the ending of it, but I do know the actual ending of it because I seen the OVA, which is uploaded on YouTube for some weird reason. Because no one can license the Bastard for some reason.
Weird.
Yeah, and it's like I watched it, and I know what was pertaining to because of the buildup of what they were gonna do, and especially the like a lot of people noticed the dark elf woman who was in that series. Like everyone was like lusting after her when because it's like
Damn.
that's a yeah, like like anyone could tell you like this is for an example. Like the whole point of him is making a harem.
And a lot of these people are complaining about harem anime, but when it comes to series like this, they don't bat an eye. That
They're
rap
not
though.
even. I know, and that's the
Honestly,
example. Like yeah, and I remembered watching the anime, like the '90s version. Yeah, she does look hot in that outfit.
wasn't she a bit darker
Yeah,
in that?
yeah. They still made her a bit darker in the anime a little bit when they did the fighting.
I will confess, when it comes to dark fantasy,